Either Lounge Radio.
Before feeds, before recommendations, before the smartphone reorganized attention, culture in Kenya moved through informal human infrastructures. Older brothers, cousins, school dormitories, kiosks, barbershops, magazine racks, rental shops, matatus, and rumor. This episode argues that the pre-platform Kenyan media world was not merely less connected than today's internet. It was connected differently through scarcity, myth, oral transmission, embodied hierarchy, and clustered access. The older brother in OLDERBROTHERCORE is therefore not just a person. He is a cultural function, the figure who stands between you and the world, curating desire before the algorithm learned to do it automatically.
Show me the way I can be here forgetting some things you said about you, about the state of yours.
There was a time when culture in Kenya did not arrive through a feed. It arrived through a person, usually a slightly older person. A cousin who had already seen the film, a dorm mate whose brother in Nairobi had burned the CD, a barbershop attendant who knew which dancehall song was making the rounds, a boy in school who claimed to know the plot of Prison Break 3 episodes before anyone else had actually seen it, a girl who had the latest insider or had attended Chagula Tinis and suddenly knew things about style, celebrity and urban life that the rest of you did not. An older sibling who had somehow touched a wider world and brought back proof of it in the form of a magazine, a scratch CD, a ringtone, a rumor, a football jersey, a PSP, a Top of the Pops memory, a joke from Ridiculous, a copy of Now magazine, a pirated episode, a cheat code, or a word. This is where OLDERBROTHERCORE begins, not with an object but with a structure of circulation, not with a device but with a social relation. Before the algorithm, before personalized recommendation, before TikTok, Spotify and infinite retrieval, culture moved through Kenya in an improvised republic of intermediaries. It was slower, stranger, less verifiable, and in some ways more powerful because of that. Things did not simply spread, they accrued aura. A show you had not seen could still dominate your imagination because it existed first as hearsay. A song could become socially real before it became acoustically available to you. A game could be mythologized through description. Information moved in a half oral, half material form, and by the time it reached you, it was often no longer pure information at all. It was already fantasy. If Freud teaches us anything here, it is that memory does not preserve the world intact. It condenses, displaces, and selects. The real objects recede. What remains is a charged fragment. So when people remember the 2000s, they often remember not media in the abstract, but a corridor of passing details. The one dormmate who always had spoilers, the smell of a rental shop, the cover of Now magazine, the sweet aisle in Nakumatt, the rumor that someone had seen Bleach before it was available anywhere you knew. The older cousin who explained 50 Cent to you as if he were reporting from the front lines of global culture. These are not trivial residues. They are actual pathways through which a generation assembled its symbolic world. The question is not simply what we watched, read, or listened to. The question is, how did culture travel before it became frictionless? And what kind of Kenyan subject was produced by having to encounter the world through these local custodians of elsewhere? This series derives its name from OLDERBROTHERCORE, an internet aesthetic of the same name that romanticizes the visual culture and stereotypical traits of a rebellious teenage boy from the 1990s and 2000s. The title sounds nostalgic, maybe even jokingly aesthetic, but the older brother in this series is not just a demographic figure. He is a social machine. He is what Lacan would call a local embodiment of the other. A figure who seems to possess access, knowledge, coolness, and authorization. He has already crossed some threshold you haven't. He knows which songs matter, which football teams matter, which show is worth watching, which anime is serious, which magazine is for kids, and which one is for people who know things. He doesn't simply own more media, he mediates value. In a Kenyan setting of uneven access, this role was intensified by material conditions. Access to media was not evenly distributed. One household had DSTV, another had KBC and maybe a VCD player. One cousin had a phone with Bluetooth and memory card support. Another had a radio and a stack of bound CDs. One person lived near Nakumatt Mega and could browse imported magazines. Another encountered culture mainly through school, church, matatu sound systems, and whatever a friend had managed to copy. So, the older brother figure emerges precisely where class asymmetry meets desire. He is not just older, he is positioned closer to the source. That source may have been a magazine rack carrying Now Magazine, The Insider, or The Source Magazine. A shop with movie rentals or banned VCDs and DVDs. A relative with a PSP or the brick game. A house where CNN, BBC, or Top of the Pops played in the background. A school network where one person had access to imported music, gossip, and game cheat codes. A cousin with a Symbian Nokia and a memory card full of MP3s, anime clips, and Bluetooth shared files. In Lacanian terms, desire is never simply desire for an object. It is desire as organized through the desire of the other. The older brother figure does not just show you what to like, he shows you what is desirable in the first place. What is desirable at all. He supplies a coordinate system. He tells you explicitly or silently what counts as cool, current, urban, mature, funny, dangerous, romantic, masculine, or technologically advanced. This is why the Kenyan media story cannot be reduced to we consumed American media or we watched local TV. Culture had to be translated through local hierarchies of access. Imported media entered social life through people who had already metabolized it, misremembered it, exaggerated it, or fitted it into existing local codes. The result was not passive reception, it was an informal and often distorted pedagogy of cool. One of the strongest assertions in this series is the insistence that information in the early 2000s often spread in a rumor-like mythical fashion. That needs to be taken very seriously, not as a cute memory, but as a key to how pre-platform media culture actually worked. Before search and before reliable personal access, information did not travel as a transparent packet. It traveled socially, and social transmission changes the ontology of information. Once a piece of media knowledge is passed from one person to another in a context of scarcity, it becomes vulnerable to distortion, embellishment, and mythologization. I heard this game has 100 levels. I heard Prison Break gets crazier because the guy had them up tattooed on his body. I heard in Bleach they can transform. I heard this phone can play real videos. I heard there's a version of Super Strikers on Safaricom scratch cards. I heard this magazine has things they can't show you on TV. I heard if you go to this rental shop, they have the real uncensored version. Rumor was not the opposite of media. Rumor was one of the vehicles of media. Freud's notion of screen memory is useful here. A screen memory is seemingly minor memory that stands in for a larger, more emotionally charged scene. In the same way, rumor often functioned as a screen form of inaccessible media abundance. It condensed the desire for the inaccessible object into a transmittable anecdote. You did not need to have seen the thing to be affected by it. The rumor itself carried a charge. This is especially important in a country and period where access was stratified. One child may have watched Alias or Angel cleanly on TV. Another may have known those shows only through second-hand summaries and occasional glimpse at a cousin's house. One teenager may own a CD full of imported rap and dancehall. Another may know the music first through matatu snippets, school performances, and stories. One person may read Insider and the source directly. Another may only encounter their contents as they circulate socially through conversation and imitation. What the rumor does then is bridge a structural gap between the existence of a cultural object and one's direct possession of it. But it does so imperfectly. It turns the object into a floating signifier. This is why so much early 2000s Kenyan media memory has a legendary texture. Things were always just beyond reach, and that just beyond is exactly the space where fantasy thrives. If the older brother was one informal distributor of culture, print media was another, but not print in the boring sense of reading materials, in quotes. Print in the sense of a social technology of youth identity. Take Now magazine with Babu, Bongo Man, and the wider comic ecosystem around it. Add Manuele, Gitongana Stano, The Alien, Super Strikers, the Arcadia comic series, Insider, The Source, and imported or semi-imported youth magazines. What you begin to see is not a pile of unrelated reading material but a distributed ecology of youth scripting. These objects did several things at once. They were portable cultural bundles. A single magazine or comic could carry humor, serialized story, fashion cues, celebrity information, urban aspiration, sexual curiosity, moral instruction, gossip, and advertisements. In other words, they compressed many of the functions now dispersed across TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, WhatsApp, and blogs into one tactile object. They were also class markers and access markers. Who bought them? Where were they stocked? Were they purchased in supermarkets like Nakumatt, Uchumi, and Tuskys, picked up in town, borrowed from friends, read in school, shared among siblings? The answer matters because these magazines do not circulate in a vacuum. They were part of the same classed geographies as malls, kiosks, schools, and family outings. But more importantly, they were pre-social platforms. They did not merely tell you what existed. They modeled a relation to the world. They taught the reader how to occupy youthfulness. They offered templates for humor, urbanity, coolness, romance, embarrassment, style, and belonging. They allowed a Kenyan child or teenager to imagine themselves as part of a wider field of youth culture that exceeded the household and the school. This is where Derrida becomes unexpectedly useful. The magazine is a kind of archive, but a fragile one. It is a supplement, something that stands in for a larger social world while also creating it. It carries traces of conversations, desires, and identities that may not have existed yet in lived form. The magazine doesn't simply reflect youth culture. It prefigures and scripts it. It says, here is the kind of person who exists, and here is the symbolic furniture of their world. In that sense, these magazines were not side notes to the Kenyan media story. They were among the first places where a generation learned to experience itself as a demographic with tastes, fantasies, and a shared horizon of cool. If there is one institution that deserves to be treated almost as a media platform in its own right, it is the boarding school. Boarding school is crucial because it takes all the dynamics we've discussed, that is, scarcity, hierarchy, rumor, contraband, aspiration, and compresses them into a sealed social environment. In that environment, media does not circulate as isolated entertainment. It circulates as currency. A boarding school dormitory is an information market. It is also a theater of status. The person who has seen the latest show, heard the latest song, memorized the latest joke from Churchill or Ridiculous, or acquired the latest football gossip is not just informed. They possess social capital. Restricted access makes media more potent because it intensifies the gap between those who know and those who do not. In that sense, boarding school was one of the great Kenyan machines for converting media into oral culture. A show becomes a narrated plot. A song becomes a half-remembered chorus sung in a corridor. A joke becomes detached from its original program and re-enters life as a dorm meme. A dancehall hit by T.O.K., Binneman, or Elephant Man becomes less a track than a social event. Imported rap by 50 Cent, Eminem, Bad Boy, Pac, Biggie, and others is stripped of its original context and reinstalled inside Kenyan school masculinity as swagger, mythology, posture, insult vocabulary, and performance. And because boarding school also organizes desire through absence, that is, the absence of a home, absence of unrestricted entertainment, the absence of privacy, it then becomes an ideal site for fantasy. As per Lacanian theory, desire is structured around luck. Boarding school intensifies luck structurally, and therefore intensifies the symbolic charge of media objects. The film you can't watch, the magazine you can't own, the song you can only hear in fragments, the phone you're not supposed to have, the rumor about a game or show. All of these acquire a surplus of meaning because they occupy the space of prohibition. This is why the Kenyan media story cannot be written solely from the perspective of the living room or the shopping mall. It has to pass through the dormitory, the corridor, the tuck shop line, the whispered summary after lights out. That is where culture was often stripped of its official packaging and reborn as social myth. If boarding school was one republic of circulation, it was not the only one. Kenyan culture also moved through what we might call small public media nodes. For instance, the barber shop, the movie rental shop, the movie burning place, the supermarket magazine section, the estate kiosk, the matatu, the cousin's house, the neighbor's TV, the church youth event, and even the cyber cafe. Each of these spaces had its own relation to authority and cool. The barber shop was often a masculine listening post. The matatu was a mobile sound system and design manifesto, and it still is today. The rental shop was an archive and recommendation engine run by human memory. The supermarket was a curated encounter with abundance. The cousin's house was often a temporary border crossing into a different class position or media ecosystem. Even something as simple as a Nakumat aisle or the presence of beanos, dandies, and other goodies could become a small revelation of consumer modernity. The board's language of spectacle matters here, but with a Kenyan adjustment. Spectacle is not just giant media image, it is also the way social life becomes mediated through curated surfaces and distributed fantasies. A barbershop poster, a matatu playlist, a magazine cover, a DVD sleeve, a phone wallpaper, a Super Strikers scratch card, and magazine comic panels. These are all spectacular fragments in miniature. They are images and signs organizing social relations. But because access was uneven, the Kenyan spectacular order was never total. It was punctured by absence, improvisation, and lag. You could know of a world without fully entering it. You could participate in a culture through fragments. In some ways, that made the image more powerful, not less. The less complete the object, the more room there was for projection. Nostalgia has a flattening effect. It says, remember when, as though everyone occupied the same when in the same way. But one of the central claims of OLDERBROTHERCORE is that there was never a single Kenyan media childhood. There were overlapping and evenly distributed childhoods, linked by shared artifacts, but separated by radically different conditions of access. One child encountered Now magazine because their family bought it regularly. Another only saw it when a friend brought it to school. One child experienced Top of the Pops, CNN, BBC, and imported sitcoms as background domestic atmosphere. Another encountered the same global media secondhand through rumor, pirated discs, or short visits to a relative or a friend's house. One teenager's path to coolness passed through village markets, Nakumatt Mega, and private phone ownership. Another's passed through the matatu, the barber shop, and the dormitory. This matters because class did not only determine what you consumed, it determined the form in which culture appeared to you, either direct or indirectly, owned or borrowed, regular or occasional, official or pirated, solitary or communal, tactile or rumor-based, or ordinary or sacred. A child who sees a PSP once every few months at a cousin's house does not inhabit the same digital world as a child who owns one. A teenager who reads The Insider in full does not occupy the same youth culture as one who only hears about its contents. A household with a VCD player and later a DVD player experiences time, anticipation, and family entertainment differently from a household that relies on broadcast television and neighbors. And yet, these different worlds still touched each other. That is what makes the Kenyan story so rich. Culture crossed class boundaries through copying, lending, pirating, narrating, and showing off. The same artifact could be a routine domestic object for one person and a near mythic object for another. The same prison break episode could be watched casually in one home and retold as legend in a dormitory elsewhere. The result is that Kenyan media modernity was not one river. It was a delta, many channels, crossing and recrossing, carrying different sediments of class, aspiration, and access. If this first episode is about anything, it is about the fact that culture once had to travel through bodies, through older brothers, cousins, schoolmates, barbers, rental shop attendants, church friends, magazine vendors, and rumor networks. Media was not yet a frictionless archive. It was a social event, a contested object, a scarce object, a narrated object. It arrived late, distorted, and incomplete, and therefore often more magical. Eventually, this informal republic of culture found a machine to crystallize around. The rumor had to meet the disc. The recommendation had to meet the shop. The fantasy had to meet the player. The next phase of Kenyan media life would not abolish scarcity, but it would give it a new material center: the rental shop, the burned VCD, the DVD player, the glow of the menu screen, the silver underside of the disc, the smell of the machine heating up in the sitting room. The older brother did not disappear. He just moved behind the counter.
Nishike kwa niani, nimezunguka kasayari. Show me the way I can be here forgetting some things you said about you, about the state of yours. This month.